I want to tell you about a powerful idea for how we can solve global poverty. And I want to talk about how you, a person with talents and a career ahead of you, can lead this change. A lot of times, when we start talking about solving something like poverty, we hear the word innovation. When I say that word, what comes to mind? Maybe it's engineers prototyping some new idea. Maybe it's programmers and they're working on a new mobile app. Or it could be any person designing or building that next great poverty intervention. Well, I think about innovation a lot, and I've come to realize that there is a problem with each one of these visions. They don't represent innovation. They represent invention. And on their own, not one of these inventions will actually change the world. In fact, inventing something is only the first small step. It only becomes an innovation when that great idea leaves the lab and actually gets out to people in need. I know this sounds simple, but I'll argue that in too many instances, the world has already invented effective poverty solutions and has then failed to actually get them out to people. If you're a person that wants to change the world, stop inventing. The world already has plenty of inventions. Instead, focus your talents on how we can better distribute some of these good existing inventions and actually get them out to people in need. I want to share a story that I think illustrates this. Malaria is one of those classic poverty problems. If you don't know, malaria is a neglected tropical disease. It's spread by mosquito, and infections cause a number of significant poverty ailments, including death. Fortunately, the world has been working on a solution for a long time. 1980 was an especially big milestone. That's the year that the modern mosquito net was invented. It's a pretty basic traditional net that's been dipped in insecticide, and it keeps the mosquitoes away. It's a simple solution. It's also a proven solution. We know that for every 1,000 of these nets that we distribute, we avert 5.5 childhood deaths. But let's get some costs into that. One of these nets, it only costs about $5. If you do the math, you'll realize that we could save a child's life for less than $1,000. It's an incredible invention. Well, in 1980, there were about 500,000 deaths from malaria worldwide. And then we invent the modern mosquito net. What happens? Between 1980 and 2004, number of deaths from malaria increased. In fact, mortality more than tripled. What went wrong? Well, let's jump ahead a little bit more. 2004 was another major milestone year. That's when the world got very serious about distributing these mosquito nets. In 2004, we distributed 30 million nets around the world. And by 2010, we had ramped that up. We were doing 150 million nets each year. Here's what happened. The lesson here is that the invention of the modern mosquito net was important, but on its own, it saved 0 lives. Distribution saved millions of lives, and it turned that mosquito net from a simple invention into a real, high-impact innovation. There's a second lesson here, too, for all of you people that want to change the world. And that is that inventing something is really, really hard. Imagine if I challenged any one of you, invent me a solution to malaria. It has to be at least as good as what we've already got. Most of you would be stumped, myself included. Or at best, some of you would spend a lot of time and a lot of money in a lab trying to come up with a new idea that may or may not work. Instead, what if I challenged you? Take some of these mosquito nets, we already have them, find a way to get them out to people in need. Well, that's a challenge I think many more of you could be very successful at and start making impact on the world in a much quicker time frame. The opportunity to make this level of impact, though, is not limited to mosquito nets. There are many instances where we already have a proven invention, but it just hasn't gotten out to people that need it. I want to give you another one. This one's focused more on health education. In many places, the world has what I call a sugar daddy problem. Now, sugar daddies are older men. They can be in their 30s or their 40s, who will prey on young teenage girls. Sugar daddies start by giving girls money and gifts, and they use this to develop a sexual relationship. Now, this is a poverty problem for a few reasons. For one, if you're a young teenage girl, you're less able to insist on abstinence or safe sex practices if you're dating an older man who has more power in the relationship. Older men are more likely to transmit HIV. In a country like Botswana, 45% of men in their 40s are HIV positive. Sugar daddies are one of the reasons why girls in sub-Saharan Africa are 5 times more likely to be infected with HIV than boys of the same age. Girls in sugar daddy relationships are also at risk for an unplanned teenage pregnancy. Again, because they can't insist on abstinence or safe sex practices. Think back to when you were in school. Imagine if 1 out of every 10 of your friends was facing a teenage pregnancy. Well, that's the reality for girls all throughout sub-Saharan Africa today. There's good news, though. A proven solution has already been invented. It's called a sugar daddy awareness class. It's a 1-hour sex education class. It starts with some class activities, then there's an educational DVD, and it wraps up with a class discussion and a Q&A. The class has one purpose. It teaches students that should they choose to partner with an older man, then they are more at risk for things like HIV and pregnancy. It's a simple solution. It's also a proven solution. About 10 years ago, a Stanford professor ran a randomized control trial and found out this 1-hour class, given just one time, reduces teenage HIV infections and pregnancies by 28%. Sugar daddy awareness classes are like mosquito nets. It's a simple, proven solution. It's been around for decades. The difference, though, is that mosquito nets have been distributed in the millions. Sugar daddy awareness classes have basically been collecting dust on a shelf ever since. In fact, I only know one person in the entire world who is teaching sugar daddy awareness classes right now. He's an MIT graduate. His name is Noam Angrist. And about a year ago, he started a new NGO named Young Love that operates in Botswana. The Young Love team is on a mission. They are going to teach this sugar daddy awareness class to as many students as they can possibly reach. They've already taught this class to 50,000 students. And by the end of the year, they will be in every single school in Botswana, nationwide. The Young Love team is literally changing the world right now. And Noam is a true innovator. Do you know what he didn't do? Noam did not invent the sugar daddy awareness class. That was done decades ago. But it hasn't stopped him from making impact. Young Love has already averted hundreds of HIV infections and teen pregnancies. Imagine what they'll do in the next couple of years. Imagine if I challenged any one of you. Invent me a new way to reduce teenage HIV and pregnancy rates. Could you do it? Maybe, but you'd spend a lot of time and a lot of money working on an idea, and in the end, who knows if it would work? What if instead I challenged you? Take this class curriculum. We already have it. We already know it works. Find a way to teach this knowledge to girls who need to hear it. Well, that's something I think many of you could start working on tomorrow. And if you follow Noam's example, you could literally be making a difference in hundreds or thousands of girls' lives in a few short months. There's actually a lot of poverty interventions that need to be better distributed, and they're not all health-related. I want to tell you about another one. This one's focused on energy poverty. Right now in the world, there are 1.3 billion people who don't have access to electricity. These families instead have to light their homes at night using kerosene lanterns. This is an ineffective technology for so many reasons. They create poor indoor air quality, which has health implications. Kerosene lanterns can get knocked over, and they start fires, and they burn houses down. Fuel is prohibitively expensive. And on top of all of that, they're not very good at their one main job. Kerosene lanterns are dim, and trying to get any work done by light of a lantern is nearly impossible. Fortunately, a proven solution has already been invented. Solar lamps are 15 times brighter than kerosene lanterns. They don't pollute the air. They can't cause fires. There are no fuel costs. A family that buys a solar lamp will pay it off in 6 to 12 months. And after that, the money they would have spent on kerosene is just money in the bank. Families that go solar are also more productive. They can do better quality work, and they can work longer hours. Household incomes will increase up to 30%. And children, well, they'll study twice as long. It's a proven solution. It's a simple solution. It's a lot like sugar daddy awareness classes. It's also not reaching enough people. Right now, only 5% of people that need access to a solar lamp have the means to get one. I know a few folks that are working to change this right now. Jackie Stenson and Diana Jew are two entrepreneurs. And a few years ago, they started a company named S-Mart that operates in India. S-Mart works like this. They buy solar lamps and other products from manufacturers in bulk, and then they sell them to small stores that otherwise wouldn't have access, so that they can stock their shelves. I know this sounds simple, but you have to remember, this type of basic distribution is not happening for 95% of the people that need it. Jackie and Diana are only 28 years old, but in the few years that they've been running S-Mart, they've already brought light into the homes of 36,000 people. They've had to solve a lot of hard problems along the way. They've had to figure out how to do shipping and distribution in India. They've had to figure out how to manage inventory and run warehouses. And there's been plenty of cultural barriers they've had to cross too. One thing Jackie and Diana never did, they did not invent the solar lamp. It hasn't stopped them from bringing light into the homes of tens of thousands of people. There's two others I want to tell you about. Andrew Lala and Tommy Galloway are two entrepreneurs I met when they were still students. They were enrolled at Tufts University in the Fletcher graduate program. When Andrew and Tommy graduated, they started a company that sold solar lamps. It's named Claire de Lune, and it operates in Burkina Faso, which is a country in West Africa. Now, Andrew and Tommy were really excited about solving this distribution problem for rural villagers. It's a tricky problem. On one hand, getting products out to rural areas is expensive. And once you get there, disposable incomes tend to be a lot lower. So from a business perspective, it's this total mismatch. This didn't stop Andrew and Tommy. They did some research, and they found out that a lot of wealthy urban people still have families back home, and they would send money to them to support their families. Well, the team used this insight. They started going to those easy-to-reach urban areas. They found those wealthy people about to send money back home, and they sold them a solar lamp. Buy one of these lamps. Send it to your family. It has fantastic benefits that they'll love. The plan worked. 40% of the lamps that Andrew and Tommy sold were sent to those far-flung villages. This team is just getting started, but they've already solved a really tricky problem. Do you know what they never did? They never invented a solar lamp. It doesn't matter. They're still on the path to change lives of hundreds of thousands or millions of people in a short amount of time. I've gotten to meet so many world-changing people, like Noam, and Jackie and Diana, and Andrew and Tommy. These are the people who right now are literally ending global poverty. The reason is that they didn't get caught up in the need to invent a new solution. They never spent time in a lab. They never prototyped anything. Instead, they bought a plane ticket, they hired a staff, and they started turning a proven invention into a real, high-impact innovation. So if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, if you want to change the world, stop inventing. In so many areas, the world already has an effective invention. Instead, focus your energy on how we can better distribute some of these life-changing inventions that already exist and get them out to the people that still need them. To me, that's a problem any one of you can solve. Thank you.